Hello! Guess who? It's me. It feels funny just talking to myself on the camera. I'm trying to record it straight onto my laptop so that it's easier then that I can upload it in the group. But anyway, I hope that you guys are alright. And thank you for being with me and letting me take a little break. I got a spot. I picked myself. Oh well. I saw my badness coming out. Anyway, thank you for being with me and supporting me through this fun time. And I'm sorry that I've missed a few sessions, but I promise that once everything is back to normal, we'll get rocking and rolling and get through the rest of it. So I know that I left you working on values, so I want to do a little bit of a discussion around that because it is quite an important topic. I've lost my cucking telephone. Does anybody know where my telephone is? Because I made a note on it while I was out walking pie. So what I want to talk about is values. And when we know our values, it's a lot easier to operate. It's a lot easier to make decisions. It's a lot easier to do things. But at the same time, they're also really difficult sometimes to pinpoint. Now, I've given you the exercise on the book that is on page blah, blah, blah. This one here with identifying your values. And it's given you some questions that you can answer that can start to kind of like uncover what your values may be. But I just want to touch upon a few things. Happiness is a byproduct of living true to our values. When I know my values and when I live by them, it's a lot easier to go to sleep at night knowing that I've stayed true to them, knowing that I've made decisions that are in line with them, even when they've been difficult. The cat has found a piece of paper. Mash, would you mind? I'm busy. Not her. I'm busy talking to the people. No. Animals. But like I was saying, like knowing your values and living by your values. Excuse me. I threw it in the bin. I can't even get a rest from these animals. They're like kids. But like I was saying, happiness is a byproduct of living by your values. When you know your values and you connect with them and you operate from them, it's a lot easier to make decisions. It's a lot easier to prioritize things. But a lot of times we learn our values over time, and there are quite a few sources of values that we learn them from. We can learn them from our family. So we may grow up in a certain environment where, just use my example, my mum was a hard worker. She was a grafter, and it was always work hard, work hard, work hard, work hard, work hard. You've got to have a career. You've got to be driven. You've got to be focused. You've got to stay in a job and get to the top of the things, and it doesn't matter about what you really enjoy. You just got to stick to your job and do it. So you can learn things like that from your family. You can learn them from your friends, from the people that you hang around with. If you take a look at the people that you hang around with the most and just observe them, see how they operate, see what kind of things they do, because I'm only going to resonate truly with friends that have the same values as me. I might not realize it at the time, but when I find someone that has the same values as me, and I might not necessarily know what they are, when I find someone that has the same values as me, it's easier to connect with them. And sometimes when we are with a certain group of people, time just flies by. Or we may not have seen them for a long time, and when we see them, it's like we haven't been apart at all. That shows on some level that you are connecting with someone who has has similar values and principles to you. So if you're struggling to identify your own values right now, take a look at the people around you. Take a look at the people that you feel most comfortable with and ask yourself, well, what is it about those people that I like? I'll use my example. Like Jerome is one of my closest and probably my best friend. He's my business partner. We do a lot together, and when we are together, it just feels right. So if I detach myself and observe what it is that makes things feel right, I know that Jerome likes to help other people. That is very, very important to him. I know that Jerome has a lot of faith in the universe and those kind of things. So, that is also very, very important to me. I know that in his own way, Jerome values health. And in my own way, I value health. So when I take a look at that and I observe the people that I resonate the most with, I'm going to start to identify some of the things that are important to me. Another place that we also learn values from is school and the education system. We maybe get brought up that you've got to study hard and you've got to do very well at your exams and all that sort of stuff. So it's almost like success is ingrained upon us, and we take these things. Religion is another one. The place where you grew up, geography. Different cultures have different values. So, my very traditional roots are African-based, and in Africa and the way that we're brought up, family and community is very, very important. You're almost brought up being taught that, what you do in your community affects another community, and that community will affect another community. So it has kind of like this ripple effect. In traditional language, it's called Ubuntu. So sometimes we can learn that. Politics and economics can also have an influence in the values that we have. And one that plays a really large part in it is media. And by media, I don't just mean like television and movies and magazines and newspapers. I also mean social media. Sometimes we can be afraid to express ourselves because we worry about what other people might think I'm going to say, or might think about me when I say something on social media. So we see people posting the highlight reel and therefore feel that I need to post the highlight reel, because if I'm not posting a highlight reel, then I must be doing something wrong. So it's also, kind of like to be aware that those are the sources of our values. And when we look at values, by definition, and I'm just going to read some stuff here, values are a set of internal filters that determine how we see the world around us, and therefore our own individual experience in life. So values are these filters that shape how we see the world. And as they shape how we see the world, they also shape my experience of life. So when you start to explore these values that you have within yourself, take a look at the filters that you look at the world with. What do you see most? What do you seek most? What comes to your attention most naturally? Because when we are defined by values that may not necessarily be our own, it's almost like having blinkers on, and we just see the world as it is without opening our mind and seeing other things around us. Values also drive our behavior, especially in times of conflict and stress. One of the easiest ways to kind of like identify what your highest value is to take a look at how you deal with big stress. When there is a big situation in your life, how do you deal with it? And I kind of like use my own experience between the past and between now. In the past, when there was huge amounts of stress, what I would naturally do is take my mind off myself and focus on helping other people, and focus on looking at the people and taking care of the people around me and putting my needs aside. And that's how I was brought up. Like I was saying, very traditional values, Ubuntu, look after your community. When you look after your community, then things are okay. But what I then started to realize is that when things got more and more stressful, I needed to find a way to express myself. So now, when things get stressful, because I've connected with a lot of values deep down inside of me, and I've got to know my own values, I've let go of the values that I grew up with, that I realized weren't serving me. And we covered an exercise of this earlier on, things that you should be doing and things that you think you have to do and all that sort of stuff. Now, during times of stress, and I've realized this recently, is that for me, self-expression is my number one value. So during times of stress, which I've been through recently, I kind of like learned and acknowledged that I can express how I'm feeling. And it was at first a difficult decision to make because it was something very different to what I'd been doing before. But when I expressed what was going on for me, it made it a lot easier to deal with my own problems. So kind of like look at your behaviors that you turn to during times of stress. If it's an action that you take, ask yourself, well, what is the specific action bringing me? Because that's going to help you explore it. Our personal values are at the heart of why we do what we do in life. So when you think about the things that you do on a daily basis, ask yourself, well, why is it that I'm doing these things? What is the reason that I'm doing it? I say to myself, I use my own example. What is the reason that I'm doing perfectly imperfect? What is the reason that I like to cook for people? What is the reason that I like to sit down and listen to people? What is the reason that I like to express myself? Because for me, when I look at that why, it's about making a difference. It's about creating change. It's about looking at things differently. So those are my whys. So they help me to kind of like tap into them. And I can read again here. Understanding our values and making them clear to ourselves, but also to other people, can transform the way in which we live our lives and the way in which others respond to us. When I operate from my values, other people will know what I stand for. So you guys can do this like as a group while you're sitting down together. You can ask each other or write it down. So, without asking each other, without telling each other, before you do the exercise, write it down. Say to yourself, okay, well, this is what I believe Natasha stands for. This is what I believe John stands for. This is what I believe Nicholas stands for. This is what I believe Jerome stands for. And do it, and then discuss what you thought each other stood for. Because sometimes it's easier for other people, when we're not connected with them, when we're not fully aware of them, sometimes it's easier for other people to know our values than it is for us to know them ourselves. And this can be done. It's a really cool exercise to do. I remember the one time that Jerome and I were crewing at an event in London long ago. And there was this period of time that we needed to take a break, and we needed to keep our crew members occupied. And what we did was we gave everybody a piece of paper, and they wrote their name at the top. And then they passed it to the person, and the person next to them had to write one word that they thought of when they saw the name at the top of the paper. And then they sent it all around. Now, if you just bear with me. Hold on, I'm just looking for it. Please give me some time. I have it here somewhere. Sorry. I've got so many pieces of paper, it's unbelievable. There it is. Look. Sorry. So I've got the piece of paper that I'm referring to. So you can see here, we wrote our names at the top and then we passed it around to everyone in the group. So I'm going to read what was written about me on my piece of paper. Someone wrote, fucking awesome, so inspiring. If I can be half the leader you are, I will be happy. Someone else wrote honest. Someone else wrote amazing. Someone else wrote very funny and cares about everyone. Someone wrote sexy ass and a super leader and very touching. You are a love, true to himself, encouraging, giving, passionate, loving, caring. So other people, and that for me was like a really, really eye-opening example of like what people see in me, I didn't see in myself at that point in time. So it's pretty cool that you got to see the real life exercise that I am just talking about. So it's something that I would encourage you guys to do because it'll help you to start to explore your values and start seeing yourself how other people do them, and what other people see and help us to understand ourselves a little bit better. I'm reading a little bit here, so that's all right. I've got here, although our values are very important and underpin so much of what we do, very few people are fully aware of their values and what is important to them. In fact, most people tend to be set on autopilot most of the time. We usually have a clue to what we want, but we often fail to understand why it is that we want what we want. And knowing our values helps us with this. So knowing our values will enable us to, number one, be aware of what it is that you need to do in order to feel good about yourself. When I know my values and I operate from my values, like I said earlier on, happiness is a byproduct of living true to your values. When I know my values and I operate from them, I know what I need to do to feel good about me. Instead of seeking other people's approval or hoping or doing things to please other people, because if I please other people, then I will feel good about myself. But when I know my values and I'm aware of them, I know what I need to do to feel good about myself. My values will also help me to gain awareness to make better decisions. When I know my values and I'm connected with my values, it helps me make decisions because I can say to myself, well, is this in line with my values and what I stand true to? And I use that whenever I make decisions now. If something is not in line with my values, or if I don't make a decision, if I want to make a decision that is not in line with my values, I don't make it. When I make a decision, I want to make sure that it fulfills my values. So for me, my number one value is self-expression, or the way that I choose to define it is rebellion. So when I make a decision, I make it for myself, even if it's difficult to make. Because when I make that decision with my own values, it's a lot easier to be happy with myself. And when I connect with them and I don't force them, it doesn't upset other people because I'm able to communicate them in a way that I know how to. And now this is also where some of the other stuff comes into play. Because when I know my values, I also know my own love language. I also know what my human needs are. I know how to recognize human needs in others, so I'm able to communicate properly. And what they also do, our values will help us to become more in control of our emotions, our feelings, and actions. Sometimes when our emotions and our feelings are all over the place, it's an indication that somewhere along the line we're having a value conflict. When I'm having too much emotion and I'm bouncing from one thing to the other, I'm not staying true to me. So when I want to get in control of my feelings, oh, sorry, I was just cleaning something off the screen. When I want to get in control of my feelings and emotions, knowing my values is really, really important. Let's see. Yeah, so touching upon that emotion and feelings, we often, when we're not aware of them, we often live by values that we think that we should have, and this creates conflict within us. So I'll use an example for me. I used to think that I should have the value of wealth on my list of values because I was a business owner. And whenever I made decisions to make money, I had this big conflict. Whenever it was focused around making money or whatever it is, I had this conflict because I thought, well, wealth is one of my values, so my decision has to be in line with this. But when I realized that wealth was a value that I thought that I should have and that I'd been taught that I should have, it was, it was a painful realization, but at the same time, it helped me to let it go. And it helped me to see where some of my internal conflict was coming from. So sometimes you can also identify your own values by taking a look at your internal conflict and say, well, what is it that I'm doing right now that doesn't feel 100% right, or that doesn't fit with me? Because that will be an indication that you're doing something that goes against the grain. Another reason that values are important, and I know that I'm jumping all over the place, but that's nothing new. Whenever we do these sessions, we always do jump all over the place. Another reason why values are important is because they reflect our personal sense of wrong and right. They help us grow and develop. They help us to create our own future, and they help us to make decisions. So you've got the exercise here that we went through with identifying your own values. Now remember, I've given you another exercise to do where you're going to sit down and you're going to write about each other, and you're going to write some of the things that come up when you think about each other. Write, what inspires you about what about them inspires you? What do you think they stand for? What do you think that they value? Don't talk about it when you do this exercise. Do it in a little bit of silence. And then when you've finished, take turns saying, well, this is what I think so-and-so stands for, and this is what I think so-and-so values. You also have those questions, because sometimes answering those questions, and it can be a little bit uncomfortable at first, but give yourself permission to go there. Sometimes it's difficult to acknowledge what we really want to acknowledge because we don't feel like we have permission to express ourselves. And all of us have been taught that in one way or another. When I've expressed myself, I've been shot down. So now you're asking me to tell myself about things that make me happy and things that make me proud and giving myself permission to daydream. It's about getting past that discomfort and saying, okay, I'm allowed to do this. I'm allowed to say what I daydream about. I'm allowed to say what I secretly wish I could do. Because then I can start connecting with those things. When you connect with your values, it will initially feel very calm. But then, guess what? This fucker is going to kick in and it's going to say, oh, no. So I remember when I started doing a lot of this work on myself, when I connected with the value of self-expression, it felt like, oh my God, it would be so nice to express myself. And then it went into my head and said, oh no, but I can't. I don't have anything important to say. When I thought of, when I connected with my value of helping others, it felt really, really good. But then I went into my head and said, oh, I don't know how to do that. Nobody would want to listen to what I have to say. So you can see how we will connect with our values, but then our head will kick in. And when we start to see the head kicking in, we can let go of that stuff because we've learned how to do that. We've learned how to let go of those labels. We've learned how to acknowledge those flaws and those weaknesses and connect with it. So that's what I want to leave you with today. If I was with you in person, this probably would have taken about 4.5 hours. But I've just rambled through it, and I wanted to get the most important things across. And I think that this is going to be one of the key steps that is going to help us to shape things moving forward. Now, one really, 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 really important thing that I want to stress to you is that your values right now don't have to be cast in stone. They can change. Like I said, why are values important? Because they help us to grow and develop. As I grow and develop, my values might change. Or I might shed a layer and connect with something that I didn't realize was important to me. So don't think that when you've made this list, like this is it, this is going to be set in concrete, it's going to be set in stone, because over time your values can change and they can shift around and that sort of stuff. But it's good to start to get a grasp of it and have something to hang on to. So what I'm going to challenge you to do, like I've already challenged you to do that exercise, I'm going to challenge you to discuss the questions on paper with each other, and then to rank your values. The exercise for ranking the values is there. But what I want you to do is I want you to come up with 5 values. If you're having problems ranking them, just leave a message in the group or post a comment, and I'll do a video on how to rank them. But what I want you to do is come up with your top 5 values. Now, the beauty of this is you can create your own fucking definition. If one of your values is, I don't know, okay, I'll use mine. One of my highest values is, or my highest value is rebellion. But for me, rebellion doesn't mean that whole anarchist, oh, look at him, he's a rebel, da-da-da-da-da. For me, rebellion represents self-expression and creativity. So when I think of the word rebellion, when I say to myself, Gareth is a rebel, what it means is that I am a creative person who loves to express himself. So create, if you have to create your own word, create your own word. That's the beauty of this. This is your value. It's nobody else's. What makes you happy won't make me happy. And what happiness means to me is going to be different to what happiness means to you. And what health means to me is going to be different what health means to you. So create your own definition. If you're struggling to find a word, create your own word like I did. Like for me, rebellion. When I connect with rebellion, it makes me want to cry. Like, because at the core of me, it's like, yeah, I, in my own way, am a rebel. And I know what I stand for. For me, that rebellion is about self-expression. That rebellion is about creativity. When I connect with my other values of helping others, growth, love, and faith, I feel alive. I feel tingly. I get goosebumps thinking about them. Because for me, growth is about getting through each day as best as I can. It's about learning about myself more and more every day. And helping others, it's about, sharing sharing my rebellion. I don't know what the word is, but you know what I mean. And it's about, sharing the things that have helped me grow. Love is about doing what I want to do and connecting with what I want to connect with. And faith for me is about trusting the process. Faith is really, really important to me. It's about learning to trust the process and go with the flow and take those actions that my intuition whispers to me. So I'm going to challenge you to come up with those 5 values. If you need to create your own words, create your own words. If you have any questions, leave them in the group, and then I can get to them. But I think that this is going to be a key point for us to move forward. And once we get a grasp on this, it doesn't have to be set in concrete. You don't have to get it correct. Because the bit that you're sitting there right now going, oh, but I haven't done this right. No, you've done it, and there is no right or wrong with this. This is about getting to know yourself, and only you can get to know yourself. Only you can determine how well you want to know yourself. So when you give yourself permission to go there and listen to what the other guys have written about you, listen to what each other has written about each other and discuss it. You know, I can already see that like between us that have come to together here to do perfectly imperfect, a common value that I see amongst all of us is community. And that maybe might not be something that you've thought about before. But here we are, we sit together, we've got to know each other, we trust each other, we share with each other. There's a sense of community. So somewhere between us, and it is important to me, it doesn't fit in my top 5, but that doesn't mean that it's not important to me. That doesn't mean that I don't have other values, because community is very important to me. I wouldn't be doing this if community wasn't important to me and if it didn't fit with my other values. So we can see how when a group of like-minded people come together, we're going to have common values. So that's what's really, really cool about this. So I'm going to end it off there. Like I said, if you have any questions, please can you post them in the group or send me a message, and I will do what I can. I'm pretty excited. I'm going to be going to Valencia next weekend, and I'm going to be meeting Samuel's family. Yep, I have a Samuel too. And both of us are really looking forward to it, and I will share more about it with you when I see you live. But I hope that you found that helpful, and if you have any questions, please just post them. I really miss you guys a lot, and I want to say thank you again for your support during this difficult time. And yeah, you know me, I don't like ending things off, but I'm going to end it off now. I'm going to go and make something for dinner. Not sure quite what I'm going to have, but anyway. Right, get on with it. See you soon, and I love ya! Bye!